So if I unmute and turn on my sound, can you all hear me now? Yes, we got a yes. Okay. So as long
Yes, I hear you.
as long as there is some feedback, as long as my battery lasts, we'll be okay here then. Great. So I am sorry that for those of you who haven't been able to hear, you did get most of it just in the chat there. I was the part that you I think probably missed was my actually introducing myself. So having someone random just talk to you from the screen might be a bit much. My name is Tracy Novick, and I am a field director with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. And I am the Sutton School Committee has contracted with MASC to conduct the search, which means that I'm going to be staffing the search. And that means that I'm doing these sessions. I did sessions at the schools with staff, with central administration, and with students. I'm taking the information from tonight, from Tuesday, from the survey that's out there. And as I said, if you can share the survey information with anyone you know who is in town, who has an opinion, hasn't been able to come to one of these sessions, that would be really very helpful. I'm going to leave that open for at least the end of the weekend. So while everyone's snowed in, they can all take the survey. And that information is all going to be put together. And as I said in the chat, I'm going to be bringing it back to the school committee on February 7th, along with information that they've actually been sharing with the association for the last several weeks, which goes together into a brochure that describes the district. It describes the town. I always urge them to find pretty pictures, because I think that if you've got, you should show off. This is a chance to show off. And then the position description is something that I'm going to write a draft of that I'll be bringing back to them based on the information that I'm gathering from these sessions. Because in my experience, districts tend to speak with a united voice, given enough chance, in terms of what the needs of the district are in terms of leadership. And so what I'm doing is looking for common themes that get expressed by parents, by the community members, by members of staff, by students over the past several weeks. So once that position is approved, the position will post. It will post that first week of February. And the position will be open until March 11th. So we're giving it more than a month for applications to be gathered. Posted positions go on the MASC website. They go on the MASS, which is the Superintendents Association website. Go out over our Twitter feed and our LinkedIn. And then the other two things that we do is it goes out over a listserv that we have, which is several hundred superintendents and aspiring superintendents, and also gets shared with our national network, which is the National Association of Superintendent Searchers. So that goes out to about 41 states across the country. Most of the applications probably will be from within Massachusetts. Would not surprise me, given Sutton's geography, for us to potentially have a few Rhode Island, Connecticut. And then, as I was mentioning, one of the things that I found interesting recently is that we've had sort of this trend of people maybe taking stock during the pandemic. And as part of that, something we've been seeing is educators coming back to Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a net exporter of educators who maybe either were raised here or went to school here, and they're coming back because they want to be with extended family or that sort of thing. And we actually have had a couple of superintendents who have been hired from that process as well. So probably another silver lining of the pandemic. What will happen with the applications is they come to me, they come to our office. We compile them electronically, and the first round of review of the applications happens through the school committee that's appointed by the school committee, the search committee that's appointed by the school committee. That will have representation of the larger community, parents, students, teachers, staff members, administration, and they'll be doing their work in executive session. And the reason for that, and this is actually written right into the open meeting law, the section that allows for executive session, is because you get much better applications, or applicants, I should say, if not everybody in the universe knows that you're applying on the first round. So that is actually a provision of the open meeting law that allows that to happen. I will be meeting with the search committee before the applications close to give them an orientation as to the open meeting law, as to confidentiality, as to ethics. Those who work for the district will need to actually sign an ethics disclosure. And I'll also be walking them through then actually their own process. And they will be meeting with me on Monday the 14th to review the applications and to decide who they want to have an interview. Interviews are done in executive session as well. The semifinalists, which is what those are called in that first round, will be interviewed in person. We will do it over Zoom if it becomes necessary, or if travel it would be exclude people. And then they will make their selections by the end of March. And once they've made their selections, they'll be reporting them out to the school committee. We have that scheduled for April 4th. At that point, everything after that is public. So when the finalists are announced from the search committee, those names are public. And the work of the school committee then is all done in public session. So the next thing that happens is that the school committee I will set up visits for them to go to the home districts of the finalists during a school day. They'll have a chance to meet with people who actually work with the finalists, to review some of the work that they've been doing in their own districts. And then the finalists also will spend a day here. They will visit the schools, they'll visit the classrooms, have meetings with people in the district and in the community. Generally, I recommend to the school committee that there be some sort of a meet and greet so that the public can also have a chance to meet the finalists. And then finally, the school committee has a public meeting at which they interview the finalists in a public session. After they have done that, and that's the plan is for that to be happening just prior to April vacation. And then it will kind of be up to how quickly we've been able to get things scheduled as to whether or not the school committee is able to complete all of that prior to April vacation. And if they then immediately want to move to make a decision after doing the interviews, or if they want to give a bit of time and make the decision immediately after April vacation. But in either case, the intent is for them by the end of the month of April to have made a decision. The new superintendent starts on July 1, but the intent is always to have the person at least hired early enough so that there can be a transition period from the retiring superintendent, that they have an idea of what's going on before school ends, of what's happening with summer programs, what's happening to pick up the new year, and also what the plans are for next year's budget and so forth. So that is the intent, and that's why there's as much space as there is between the hiring of the superintendent and actually the beginning of the superintendent's new position. So that is the timeline as we have it. Usually this is the point at which I would point out that this is Massachusetts and it's January, and so we're somewhat dependent on weather. Thanks to Zoom, that's a little bit less of an issue. We still, of course, obviously prefer to do interviews and visits in public. I will say that I did complete one search just as the pandemic was striking, that they had gotten to the semifinalist portion. That was actually the superintendent, and it's a successful relationship, was actually hired over Zoom. So these things do happen. We will hope that we don't actually necessarily need to do that, and that the snowstorms will all stay on the weekends. But that is the plan at this point. So I'm happy, first of all, just to take any questions that anyone has about process, about sort of how does this work, what happens next, any of those kinds of things, forecasts or what have you. And you can either, those of you who are online can either unmute yourselves or you can put things in the chat. Either way will work. And you should feel free to ask too. Okay, no questions. So, and I have given this information to the district, and I haven't actually checked, but I believe that this is going up on the district website. So if it hasn't, it will be. And I do that because I find that it's useful for folks to, you get to the middle of March and can't remember how long this is supposed to last or what's supposed to happen next. I want everybody to know that. It's important, I think, for the community to have trust in the process. So now comes the part where I'm actually going to be asking you all for information. And so when I am gathering information from a district, I ask 3 questions, and I ask them all at the same time because in my experience, the answers generally relate to one another and sort of overlap in terms of the responses. And so you can answer these in any order and any way that you wish. And just so you all know, anything you say here is actually going to go into my general notes, gets combined with everything else. And then, as I say, I'm looking for common themes that are emerging over the course of the various visits and various input sessions. So the first thing I'm going to ask is what the strengths are of the Sutton Public Schools, what you see as being real benefits of the district, what the district does particularly well that you particularly appreciate about the district. The second question, not surprisingly, is what do you see as the challenges of the district? What is it that the district is still working on? Are there things the district does that you think that the district should stop? Are there particular things that you think are particular issues of the Sutton Public Schools? And then the third thing is I hope sort of growing out of those other two answers, which is what are the needs of the Sutton Public Schools in terms of leadership at this time? So given the strengths of the district, given those challenges of the district, what is it that the district particularly needs in leadership? And I express it that way, by the way, intentionally, because what exactly the job of the superintendent is, I think is honestly unclear to many, even within education. But what does the district need for leadership, I think is something that really any of us who are around school districts can express. So those are the three questions. What I will do is I will also type them into the chat so that those of you who are online can sort of, I know you were jotting notes, can reference them as we go along if you're missing them. And then you can either unmute or you can put things in the chat if you're online.
Hi, I'll talk first. Um, so I would say that our district has a lot of strengths. So I won't list them all, but I think certainly the campus environment invites a sense of community
Mhm.
and availability for communication in person, not just online, which is wonderful. I think there's a lot of great traditions, but there's a lot of openness to adjust. And Mr. Friend has done some of that with a lot of grace. And I see a lot of great things happening, especially in the middle school and high school. I am a younger parent, so I have a soft spot for the K-5, and I absolutely love all the staff members. And there's a lot of hardworking, passionate educators that work in the school system that really, truly, deeply care about the kids. And people might have differences of opinions, but I think it all comes from a very genuine place, and it's important strength for us, I think, as an outsider.
Mhm.
The challenges right now of the district, as I see them, are, I think, probably across the world. There's the stress on our educators and administrators, as well as support staff, I think has been crushing at times during the pandemic. And that extends out to community members and families. So I think Mr. Friend's did an amazing job, and I would hope that the next leader would continue the sense of community and honest communication with the families. I've appreciated that, and I would hope that that would continue. And with that, like sometimes things need to change, or new information comes and we adapt. So I would hope for an adaptable leader. And I would love to see, we have a lot of special education students in the younger grades. I don't know the numbers for the older grades. was my special interest would be if they have any sort of specialized training or background in supporting that department, because the numbers are increasing.
Mhm.
And so kind of the forecast for that, it would be great to have, you know, maybe universal design or some sort of background that would help prepare our school for the uptick in that's coming.
Mhm.
Its needs.
Thank you.
And they should like the arts. Sorry.
Art. Sure.
Well, my problem is in order to be heard online,
Yep.
I might have to dial in audio unless folks can say they hear.
Do you want to come over? Did you want to move a chair over? No, come on over. I'll turn the screen so I can see you too.
Good evening, all. So I am a parent of kids in 3 of the schools. So Simonian Center, Elementary, and the middle school. And so I guess I will echo a lot of what Mr. Jocelyn just said, which is the heart, the kindness, the the hope for community, except that, we all embrace that there are differences among us, are really strengths of the district. And, the years of activities that kind of have followed through, I guess that's also kind of something Jocelyn said about traditions. But that does create a sense of community. And I think that we are a small community, and in the superintendent search, that's going to have to kind of, in my view, be a theme, which is somebody has to come in wanting that small community feel, because, we don't want to lose that. I think it is one of our strengths. It causes problems as well. So it is one of our challenges. If I go there, which is, budget. Budget is a challenge. There are so many wonderful ideas and kind and loving and folks at every school that they care about the kids. It's just what tools can we give them, supports, particularly in this time, that can let them kind of do more. And unfortunately, the mentality here is we have to do more with less. Mr. Friend's amazing ability to communicate with parents, but also I think his good relationship with our town administration has been a real strength. And I think it's helped make difficult decisions along the way. But, again, I'd like, if I had my way, we'd be able to get, a lot more money into the district and do exciting things. So somebody that's coming in with a fresh breath of excitement about wanting to try things. And, when it gets to like what leadership is, I think it is a lot of, I just wrote down 2 words, which is communication and collaboration. Because we are a small community, we're used to kind of all having access and the ability to be heard. I think Mr. Friends, kind of having coffee with the superintendent or, some sort of listening sessions, a constant open door philosophy that our current superintendent has, I think is going to be something important to kind of build on. But also the ability to make really difficult decisions in the light of, again, going back to budget constraints, but communicating those, I feel like everybody can get on board and get to the same page, even if they're coming at it from different viewpoints, if that makes sense, And then the last point I guess I would make is, and a little, I know the special education budget eats up a lot of what, Sutton can do. As a parent who's seen my kids kind of in all the different schools right now, one fear that I have and one thing I'd like in that, the next superintendent is how do you take kids at every level and advance and push from there? Giving opportunities, opening doors. Sometimes, again, small district is both our strength and our challenge. Is what that ends up meaning is our special education budget and all the focus is to getting the kids that are struggling to just get, to benchmark. I do worry that what we kind of lose sometimes is, you know, maybe it needs to be some level, you know, it's just every child, you got to take them where they are and then try to push and give them opportunities from there. And offering things like arts, expanding our arts portfolio, you know, catching different learners in different ways and challenging them would be something that I would love to see us do in the next decade plus. You know, there were times when programs had to be cut. We have one foreign language, you know, in the high school. Can we get past that? You know, can we grow in certain ways? So those are my
Great.
thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yep,
asking.
of course. You're getting cheered on in the chat, by the way, on budget. Good point. What else? So while I'm waiting, I'm just gonna type in the chat my email address. Because I know, first of all, that sometimes it's one of those things where you don't think of things until the next day. And so you should feel free to shoot me an email if this is one of those things, or at least to jot it down in case that happens over the weekend while you're shoveling. But I do want people to make sure that they, you know, feel like they have a chance to be reflective if they'd rather. But anything that wasn't already covered in terms of strengths of the district, or in terms of challenges of the district, or in terms of leadership needs of the district? Thanks, Michelle. An email would be great. I'm going to wait a minute or two more. I'm not going to keep you on here to just for the sake of doing it, but I also want to make sure that I outwait the wait time. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. And as I said, you know, whether you had something to say this evening or not, do feel free to either take the survey or to send me an email. Either of those are fine. The two things that I would ask are that you spread the word about the survey. It will stay open to the weekend. Honestly, and I do want to say this particularly to the parents, I did talk to the student council at the high school, but honestly, the survey is set up in a way where students of any age can take it. So please feel free to have your kids walk through it too. I would welcome having more students that take it at any age. Someone had said they were going to make it a project for, I think it was 4th grade or something like that, which is fantastic. But do spread the word with your neighbors and so forth, you know, across the town. And then the other thing is do keep an eye on sort of what's coming up in terms of, I know that I saw on the town website, they've already got posted the request for a community member to be in the search committee. They've given a process for that. And then as we move forward, once we get to the finalists, there will be a point at which there's a meet and greet. And certainly you want to make sure that you're available, you are attending that as well. So please sort of keep your eyes on the town website, the district website. You've got people who do a good job of keeping things updated on that. So you'll be able to stay appraised of the search as it moves along. And with that, I am actually going to end the meeting. But I do want to thank you all for coming, and please feel free to use my email address. Thanks very much.